Hey everyone, it's Disaster here with another video. It has been a busy few weeks for me, both in terms of like doing ADV 50 coding and also, real life stuff that's been happening. For me, it's actually, mostly trying to get myself a job in London, but that's a whole other story that doesn't really belong on YouTube. But this video is another team building guide, and it has been, a few weeks since I've done one of these. This is another structure I wanted to touch on. This is a much more specific structure than the previous video, and I'd say even that this structure fits within that structure. So this is Sun offense. The previous video was on Spikes offense. In my opinion, Sun should really pretty much always run Spikes. It's not completely mandatory, but it's a good shout. It certainly doesn't hurt, mixed Teflosion or whatever loves Spikes. So that's what this video is about. Now, Sun offense is kind of within ADV 50, it's sort of a new invention in the sense that in the previous season it was basically unused. But there were good reasons for that, which was it wasn't very good. Peculiarly, one of the changes that's happened actually has been removing a Sun Sweeper and Shift Free, but we'll see that actually that doesn't really make like much of an impact. You'll see it doesn't really have a good place on Sun offense teams really. Wouldn't be like entirely unusable, but it's not great. And what's the more important big change is the loss of Cloud9 being allowed on Golduck, which has some implications. It's a bit strange. You might think, if you're familiar with Cloud9 Golduck, you might think, well, maybe you can use it on Sun. It's like you get the benefits of a water type, but on Sun, and it's like it's true there was that, but then on the other hand, Golduck's everywhere because it's really freaking good. And then your Sunnybeam Vileplume, you set up at Sunny Day against the Golduck, and then you're outsped. You're 2-hit killed by Ice Beam, and you can't hit it back with Solar Beam anyway because it takes 2 turns under Cloud9. So it's really debilitating for Sun teams to face. I mean, at least like their direct Sun Sweepers can't do anything about it. It's not like it wasn't completely unbeatable, but Cloud9 Golduck not being here makes this a lot more consistent. I mean, you can at least consistently rely on Vileplume to be faster than everything. Notwithstanding Jumpluff. It's the one exception. Besides Jumpluff, everything besides Jumpluff, your Sunnybeam Super will outspeed under Sun, which is pretty cool for it to be able to work, as well as Solar Beam being a one-turn move always under Sun. So yeah, there's that. But we'll see. Actually, it's got quite a prescriptive structure. At least in my mind, there are ways of deviating, but it requires quite a bit of pushing and pulling, and really maybe even going pretty all out in terms of the offense. Because one of the struggles with Sun you'll find is it's just hard to fit the defensive coverage you need, and it's also hard to really properly answer Golduck. To a large degree, you kind of have to just not give it much space. Sun actually weakening its water moves does give you a bit more flexibility. If you can get Sun up when it comes in, then other Pokemon or more Pokemon can feasibly take a Hydro Pump. Even so, it can be pretty scary. But yeah, it's a decent style now. It's an interesting anti-offense tool. It's got quite a few powerful, unique options. Let's get into the structure. You'll notice the most obvious thing is I've done actual boxes of here's what each slot should contain. And the first thing, of course, is Vileplume. It's just pretty straightforward. If you're using Sun, you're using Vileplume. It's not really enough to just stick a fire type on. I mean, it's not that you couldn't do that, but I'd maybe not quite classify it as going for a Sun team. You're not exploiting the biggest benefit, which is having a sweeper with sleep that can outspeed the entire metagame under Sun, which is huge. The other huge thing, of course, is having a fire type. So yeah, those two slots are that's basically non-negotiable. get into the details of how the different fire types operate, their strengths and weaknesses. But first, let's just go big picture. The third thing is spikes as well. That's pretty unavoidable. You need a steel type for the compression. You just have like a flying resist, a rock resist, a normal resist. Like all of those things are just like hugely crucial, and it's the easiest way to fit most of that in. You need a duck check as well. Mainly it's going to be a zoom roll, but there are sort of other ways you can kind of skirt around it. If you can keep sun up, then like electrode can answer it. Tauros is a check, kind of ish. It's not the best at all, but it certainly doesn't mind sun boosted fire blast in its favor, and it's pretty fast and dangerous as it is. And then ground immune as well. That's also, you'll need one. The first 3 slots won't contain one. Your steel type won't be one, and your duck check won't be one. So yeah, it's essential. The options here are not like completely prescriptive. There, as I sort of mentioned, like stuff like electrode and Tauros and stuff can definitely, make these builds flexible. And you'll see, obviously, there's a steel type slot, but in spikes, I put like mainly Lely, but you could use the one sort of big compression option is what if you use Fortress? If you use Fortress, you need to cover the rock resist and the flying resist in some way. And that's hard to do, but you could do like electrode for the flying resist. There's ways you can push it and tweak things around, but it gets very delicate. But this way of building teams, this typical structure, it's not all sun offenses you'll ever see. You could try something as well that's like a bit more defensively unstable and like stack fire types or something crazy like that and see where it takes you. But this is my approach, where you've got your reasonable counterplay against the whole metagame. You're using stun stronger suits, and it's just going to be stable and good. So let's get a little bit more into like the nuances and what like how these things can like vary. So like Vileplume itself, like in theory, you could run Sludge Bomb, you could run like Leech Seed, you could run Synthesis. I think most of those have much merit. Vileplume's, it's not frail, but like the Sunnybeam set is pretty frail without investment. It does have some common weaknesses and so on. So it's really just you'll need all the EVs and like the offense and so on as well. So it tends to be best to just put Sleep Powder there. In spikes, sort of mentioned like Fortress is like an option. It's obviously not a great one when you're boosting the opponent's fire type moves, but it does weaken water type moves, which does give it entry in other spots. So not unusable. But like Glalie is sort of the main way to go. Really, it's a great lead as well. If you're using Glalie, you should really be leading with it. So I put it as possible lead, but there's a couple other things that could lead if you went like a Fortress route. The Glalie is a lot of interesting little techs you can do with it as well. Like for example, you can put a Lumberry with Icy Wind, and then against like lead Golduck, you can take a Hydro Pump, Icy Wind, and then spike up. You can taunt the opposing like Golduck then to ensure that it like actually attacks you. And then you can follow up with a Vileplume that will outspeed outside of Sun, or follow up with a Magneton that will outspeed and KO outside of Sun, or like with an Azumarill. There's some tech options there. Icy Wind and Taunt together as well is also really nice for guaranteeing you get spikes against opposing Glalie. You can just like Icy Wind the first turn and then spikes the second one. And yeah, it's a guarantee. It's a guarantee. Obviously, it depends on taking Icy Wind, but that's the only way it's not a guarantee. Yeah, which is a little bit nasty. And the other approach as well that you can go with it is like an End Salac set. So obviously, you'd go like Endure in the final slot. And then, having a Salac Berry, so it helps with stuff like Tauros and Crobat and Kadabra that can all be like quite nasty to these teams. If you don't have Sun Up, then, it gives you a way of forcing out like a fast threat with the Glalie. And then like one other option, of course, is like you could try HP Fire. If you've not got like a Misdreavus and you don't want Forage to just like sit up and spike on you. But on the other hand, it's probably like free entry for your fire types and so on. So it's a decision. In terms of the fire types, you got Typhlosion, Camerupt, and Rapidash. Camerupt is the only one there that's not a pure fire type. So you get a bit of extra bang for your buck there in terms of like a defensive typing, but it gives you an electric immunity. It's good against Ampharos. It's good against Muck. These aren't Pokemon that you really need extra support against. I mean, like, Vileplume helps a bit against Ampharos, and your Steel type will help against Muck. Your Ground Immune will probably help against Muck as well. It's like, it's nice to have, but not essential. But like the big thing that it offers is like Explosion, like on top of like having some really good stab combination. And with its Explosion, you can target Pokemon like Altaria and Mantina, like the two main ones I think of that you can target with Camerupt because they resist Fire Blast and are immune to Earthquake. But there's obviously other Pokemon it can hit as well, and it's a nuke. It's a nuke. Especially on Sun, you use it as a nuke. So there's that approach where your Fire type's more like going out early game and supporting Vileplume later on with Sweeping by like taking out its counters with Explosion. Whereas like Typhlosion and Rapidash are more about sweeping. Typhlosion you generally won't run Sunny Day. You'd rather sort of make use of its coverage, which is like its big strength is its coverage without Sun. You've got like Fire Blast, Thunder Punch, Hidden Power, Ice or Grass for Altaria or Whiscash. You've got Earthquake for Lantern and Muck. Muck's certainly not a bad Pokemon to be hitting for Vileplume, or maybe Vileplume can sleep the Muck and then you can go Typhlosion and start doing nasty stuff. You could go a non-mix set. One other thing as well, actually, that it is really good at against is Flareon, which is hilariously, well, not hilariously, but it's like one of Flareon's strengths is definitely like being really good against Sun. And Typhlosion definitely does a lot to help you against that, whereas otherwise you can like sleep with Vileplume, but then you have to find other ways of breaking the opponent's team. You can't break through it with Rapidash, at least, which is the downside of Rapidash. Rapidash's upside is that it can run Sunny Day. In that it gets like Sunny Day plus Solar Beam. It's the fastest fire type. You can run that with like Hidden Power as well, so it's not so bothered by like Altaria, but you're still gonna have a hard time with Mantine and against other fire types, especially Flareon, as I mentioned. Opposing Rapidash as well are actually kind of disgusting. And in theory, you could also try like Flareon there with some sort of creative offensive set. I would advise against Torkoal, as you kind of run that on slower paced teams. I'd say just use Camerupt. But yeah, those are sort of like your options in your fire type department, and those give you like quite a bit of like flexibility and being like, well, personally, I like this or that. Yeah, Steel types. Aggron, Steelix, and Magneton. Those are the three Steel types in the metagame that aren't called Forretress, and all of them, unlike Forretress, resist Flying and Rock, which are huge. In terms of the different strengths, Aggron's the best against Psychic types, which obviously is a bit of a weakness for these kind of teams. It depends like how much of the team like outspeeds it. Like if you've got Tauros, if you've got Ensa like Glalie, those help. Steelix also checks Kadabra, but it be one hit KO'd by Fire Punch and Sun. So you've got to be watchful of that. Magneton doesn't help versus that, but it can outspeed Golduck with a speed boost in some form, or you can also run Sunny Day, unlike the other Steels as well, with maybe like an Ensalak set. It's an idea I've toyed with. They've all got their own like little ups and downs. But more, it's probably going to be a case of more you pick your Steel type once you've picked everything else, more or less, as being like, well, what exactly do I need? Yeah. As you can imagine as well, with like there's not like a huge amount to play with here, so you probably will come up with something similar to what I've already built. But yeah, it is what it is. Sun's definitely one of the more prescriptive structures, but you can push and pull it in quite a few ways and personalize it to your taste. And maybe if you go a bit less solid than me, then there's a bit more room as well. The ground immunes, I think the best ones are like Misdreavus and Xadu, but you could also consider like Fearow. If you really wanted, you could maybe run a Sunny Day type Jumpluff, but I'd probably advise against it. You could also try Crobat It's stacking poison weaknesses, no, psychic weaknesses, which is just, it's not great. But it is so fast that it's probably not a huge issue. I'm saying a lot, sorry. But yeah, Crobat is an option. But Mistravus stands out for spin blocking, always huge. Sunny Day, not an issue. It's obviously it's like very much a support Pokemon, so it's like if you wanted more offense in that slot, you'd go with like Xatu, which has got a bit more speed as well. But it's not like supporting the team in the same way. It doesn't have as many resists, but you know it's faster than Golduck, which is nice, for example. But yeah, Mistravus is also low-key a little bit flexible on Sun, so like generally I'd say Sunny Day and HP Fire like necessary. Psychic is really worth it as well to hit like Muck and Crobat and the Queen, and just hitting poison types is nice. It's nice, and Psychic Fire coverage is like pretty good in this series. Well, like the only thing it doesn't hit is like Slowking. And like the last slot, like you could run Thunderbolt to hit Slowking, but you can also run like Destiny Bond or like Pin Split or Thunder Wave, and maybe like not so good. You could like consider Substitute or Come. I don't know. There's Mistravus is a flexible Pokemon. I tend to like Destiny Bond in that last slot, but definitely you can experiment. And then like the Duck Check slot, generally going to be a Zoom Roll, because like the thing is that most Duck Checks have other downsides that don't make them not maybe so great on Sun. So a lot of them are water types, like Ludicolo, Shedinja, which is like Sun is just in no way, shape, or form built to support Shedinja. Gosh, what else checks Golduck? Muck is an option, but it's another psychic weakness. It's quite slow. It doesn't hate the weather, which is okay, but you know you're just adding another psychic weakness, and so on. It can just, you may worry about getting overloaded a bit defensively with it, but it's definitely an option. I tend to hate stacking poison types a lot more than other people, so you feel free to put Muck there. I guess it's an option. And then also like Tauros and Electrode as well, like soft checks. They also soft check other things as well, like Altaria or Kadabra. Other things as well that can also be annoying on these kind of teams. So it's definitely flexible, and that slot, as well as the fire types, can lead. I mean, that slot can often do something to Glalie. And like to opposing like Golduck and fire types and whatever, it's somewhere where like the real wiggle room like kind of starts to creep in a bit, and it's a kind of a matter of takes. Like Azumarill is going to be the most solid thing against Golduck because it is so naturally tanky and also hits hard, and you've got a water type that doesn't rely at all on water moves offensively. Like the Sub Punch set, which is like really, in my opinion, the best Azumarill set. You don't need a water type move at all, like Return, Focus Punch, Sub, and HP Ghost, or possibly even Brick Break is an idea there. Another thing you could even look at as well is like Hitmonlee. I mean, it's very frail. It's only a rock resistant paper really, but it's got Limber. It is faster than Golduck. So yeah, there's a wiggle room there. But let me show you some examples. I've not cooked up anything too spicy. I'm just gonna go through the samples. I did start building some stuff around like a couple of ideas that sort of came out of me working on this, but I'll keep those for another time. Probably not another video, but probably like in tournament battles or something like that. But I've not sort of revealed it to everyone yet, maybe because no one's been too interested. But yeah, this team is pretty solid Sun offense team. So with Steelix and Mistravus, there's like a lot of resist going on as well, like a Azumarill. This is just very solid, very classy. Icy Wind is nice with the speed on like a Azumarill and Vileplume. Yeah, there's nothing like super. It's not like a whole lot to say. I'd note that like the Glalie Mistravus Steelix core is like a really solid, nice one for like Spike's offenses in general. you cover so much stuff defensively that you don't need a lot to make the team still pretty solid. So it lets you go quite offensive and still have a good backbone. And actually, this is paired with the Firewater Grass Core as well, which is quite cute. So but yeah, one upside of Steelix actually as well I didn't touch on before as well is kind of like Camera Up, you can also lure Altaria and Mantine with it as well. Of the ground immunes and stuff also switch into it though, like Mistravus, so it's not quite as good. But it's got so many resistances. It's it's solid. It's also probably about the best mixed Tauros stance you'll get in any of these teams. Mixed Tauros is definitely like a bit of a pain for Sun. It's not unbeatable, but it's sort of like when you see it, it's like, right, this is a game where it's about executing my own offense, and that's what counts. But yeah, on the whole, pretty solid take on it. This one is a bit more aggressive. You've got Camerupt supporting a Vileplume. Camerupt and Xatu also kind of have like quite nice offensive synergy. They kind of like the way that this team can pressure. What do you call it? Mantine. Yeah, that thing. It's also quite nasty versus Muck. This is a really nice anti-Muck team, I guess. There's also some Stalak berries that are floating around as well. Like, with the Steel types on these teams, you can definitely go like for quite aggressive sets if you want to. Like here, I've gone for a Sub-Punch Endeavor. Aggron with Stalak berry, you can try like N-Stalak Magneton as well. Because it's like, you don't really need a lot to go on to check Psychic types. You're not going to be doing it repeatedly. And then, Azumarill, or like if you end up with like a Tauros or something there as well, also covers you a bit versus Psychic types. So yeah, that's a different approach. The Aggron Camerupt Core also puts pressure on like Whiscash, which isn't like too bad to have. I mean, one can punish Whiscash or punish Bulky Waters in support of the other. So yeah, there's that side of things as well. Yeah. And then like the other teams. So these three teams are in the samples. Just like sort of showcasing like these different approaches. I can't remember, especially because I'm quite tired of doing this at like nearly 1 a.m, which is not super advisable, but it's just when I've had time today. So I can't remember like all of the nuances and specific details of why I've been like this decision and that decision. But yeah, these are just like a few different approaches. Feel free to experiment, try your own things out. I mean, this is what it's all about. Gosh, I'm such a poet. I'm just so tempted to like rhyme that line as well. but I held off. But yeah, that's an introduction to Sun. This video's been like a bit over 20 minutes, I can see on my thing. Yeah, sample teams will be below. Discord will also be below. Yeah, happy days. I hope you enjoy playing some Sun in ADV 50. Hope you build some teams. Hope you battle some. Like, comment, subscribe. Join us on Discord. Adios.